Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Photo Brigade Podcast. I'm Robert Kaplan. Today I've got my good friend Anthony Geathers across from me. How you doing, Anthony?
I'm good, man. Just tired.
Just tired. Well, we're going to get into why you're tired, which is because you're working a lot now, which is awesome. Before we get started, I just want to give a quick shout out and thank you to Adorama again for their event space usage. We do lots of events here, as well as Canon Professional Services and Temba Bags. You guys are all awesome. Thank you. So back to you, Anthony. We met at the Eddie Adams workshop.
Right.
When was this? Last year now. It was last year, right?
Yeah, last year.
Yeah, it was 1 year ago because they're about to do it again this year. And so you were a student at the Eddie Adams workshop.
Right.
And you were under the military wing of that, right? Or did you get in as a regular student?
Just got in as a regular student.
Okay, because you have a military background, and I know that Eddie Adams Workshop has the military angle, so that was just a coincidence.
Yeah.
Okay, so for Anthony is a really talented photographer based in Brooklyn, right? And you've lived here
since the diaper years.
Since the diaper years. Those are the good old days.
Yeah.
Less stress, right?
No, still more stress.
Still more stress. It's hard out there for a baby, you know?
Yeah.
I want to talk about your background. You see, right now you're doing lots of sports work. You're doing a lot of boxing, basketball, sports, portraiture, and so on.
Right.
But before you got into photography, you were in the military. Right. And before that, I don't know if photography was in your life before that.
It was.
Okay. So bring us back. I'm going to go through some of your boxing photos as you talk about. So give us a kind of background of where you grew up, how you got into photography, and then the military years.
All right. So when I was growing up, before I even heard of photography, I was drawing. I was drawing a lot. Especially in grade school. This is at the time when pro wrestling was cool. Everybody in school was watching Dragon Ball Z, and we were just in the comic books. So I was drawing, kept drawing, and then my history teacher, one day, he was like, hey, there's this photo contest. This when the first Canon Power Shot cameras came out. And he was like, hey, you want to enter? I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but sure. If it beats not drawing for a while, then fine. And he gave me the camera. This is when Washington Mutual Bank was around. I don't know if anybody remembers. Yeah, WAMU. So, and this hosted by Channel 9 News and everything. He gave me the camera. Although the pictures were garbage, I was like shooting, meeting people, find out what they do in the community. I mean, granted, I grew up in Brooklyn, and I knew everybody, but just taking that camera and going to different places and people then always like their picture taken.
Sure.
Like today, people like, no, don't take my picture. But especially in Brooklyn, people like, yeah, and starting whatever. So I took it serious. I went to the High School of Graphic Arts. No longer exists.
High school. So the High School of Graphic Arts, where they really specialize in.
They specialized in graphic design, photography, journalism.
See, we didn't have that kind of stuff in Ohio. I don't think. Maybe we did. Maybe there were private schools that had that kind of stuff. But
mainly private schools. But here, like in New York, there was, I think, 3 high schools that had photography, and graphic arts was one of them. And right up in Hell's Kitchen was there. Now it's like 3 schools in one building. But I took it serious then and started from scratch in their photography program. They just had us shooting nothing but film, 35 millimeter 4x5, 120. Learn how to develop our own film. Develop our own prints, set up lights and everything. So we did that for 3 years in high school, and then we went to the video side of photography, did that for a whole year before I graduated. Now, because I didn't have any college money and wanted to leave the nest, I'm like the middle child between 3 brothers.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I was like, I gotta leave the nest anyway.
Bunch of boys, huh?
Bunch of boys, oh my goodness. It's not that bad until you have to share a bedroom.
Oh, no. Yeah.
And then it's like, all right, now we got to fight over everything.
Everything, yeah.
Right. So I went to the Marine Corps, also because I'm a bit of a nut and I like a challenge. So the Marine Corps was it. So I went to the Marine Corps. I served as a machine gunner in 1st Battalion, 6th Marines.
Wow.
I did 2 combat deployments to Afghanistan.
Wow.
And in the course of all that, photography was still on my mind 100%.
But you didn't shoot any or do any of that. Well, not that kind of shooting.
I tried because I bought like a disposable camera, and then on the patrol, the truck I was in got blown up, and
really, wow,
yeah. So because we was doing a routine patrol that morning, I forgot what the mission was, and it's usually on a route. It was on a route that we already knew, and I'll never forget. It was 9 a.m. I was driving around. I was looking like because all the guns on the truck face opposite directions for like to cover sectors of fire, and just 9 o'clock rolling, quiet morning, boom, and usually you get afraid, but I was pissed. I was like, oh, not on a Sunday, God,
not on a Sunday.
Why out of all days a Sunday? And then I had my camera in it. Well, it was disposable, and it got destroyed. And I'm just like, all right, fine.
Yeah.
Fine. I can't win this battle. So still photography was on my mind, whatever. So
you basically lost your camera in an explosion
right.
that blew up your truck.
Right.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So, but I wound up didn't cry over it. It was just like, all right, now you know.
Well, you survived it. And
that's more paramount than
absolutely.
the pictures.
Wow.
So, so after my time in the Marine Corps, I got rolled into school of visual arts. I did that I had no time to do anything. I made a portfolio in like 5 days. I just took all my action figures and just shot portraits of those using the lamp and everything, wrote everything out, essay, all that. Went into the admissions office in a suit. Next thing you know, in September, boom, we're in. And around that time, I knew what I wanted to shoot, but I was just like, me just put everything in place so by the time we're ready to go, we could just take off. So that freshman year, end of the freshman year, toward the end of the freshman year, that's when I started shooting sports. And the first sport that I shot was kickboxing. And we just kind of took off from that.
Just took off from there. And so how long is the School of Visual Arts program?
It's 4 years.
4 years.
Right. So while studying, I was making my own work, and rapidly. I think I shot same frequency I shoot nowadays, like 4 to 5 times a week.
Nice.
Yeah, I was just.
Well, you know what's nice about that in the digital world these days. When I went through school, which was, 15 years ago now or something, I was one of the first photographers to go digital, and we were shooting film back then, and so you would get these assignments, one assignment a week or whatever, and it's shoot 3 rolls or something like that.
Right.
And once I went digital, people were making fun of me. They were kind of like, that's silly. Why would you get a digital? But I was able just to shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot and have no limitations. And and you obviously.
Yeah, I took full advantage of that. I was like, look, got nothing but memory cards and got camera.
Yeah.
Let's just go and make as much work as possible.
Yeah.
And this is why, I started shooting sports when I was relearning film, because part of SVA's program, I don't know if it changed or not, was that year alone, you relearn nothing but analog. So 4x5, 35 millimeter, everything. So I was directly shooting two mediums, analog and digital, on my own time. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Very nice, very nice. Okay, so then that kind of takes us to where we met.
Right.
And were you still enrolled in the school, or were you just after?
No, I was still enrolled.
You were still enrolled at that time.
And the way I heard about the Eddie Adams program, my sophomore year I took a studio class, and one of the studio professors, Clay Patrick McBride.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
CP McBee.
Yeah. So, because at the time at SVA, I wasn't getting a lot of help as far as how to craft my work. So when I had Clay, that's funny because I met Clay my freshman year. We was in the elevator. He's like, you should take my class. It's the hardest class. And I was like, all right, cool.
Challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted.
That's you. Challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted. I don't like saying no to big challenges. And a lot of kids are like, no, he's the devil, blah, blah. And I'm like,
he's the devil?
Yeah, because Clay's
he's colorful.
Yeah, and he demands a lot out of you. So, and I was like, all right, I need somebody like that. So when I had his class, and he's like, hey, come here. I heard you wasn't getting help in any of the classes as far as crafting your own work. And I was like, yeah, nobody's really receptive to sports here. So he looked at my work and he was like, I want you to approach it this way. Find out whoever you shoot in sports, find out their why. And that wound up becoming like my assignment for his class. And I kept shooting rapidly, getting better, and then finally at the end of the semester, and he introduced me to Al and Brad Smith.
Al and Brad Smith, right?
Right. So everything kind of just started to. It all
just started to come together.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, and he referred me to the Eddie Adams program. He was like, "Hey, I think you should go."
And tell me your experience of getting into it, and what was it like as a student? I'm going to try to pull up some Facebook photos of our experience. I just have to go to my Facebook page to do so.
Yeah. The process was actually hard because I didn't know how to edit my own work. So and I was having trouble, and I was like, you know what, let me get Al Bello on the phone. Let me see if he can help me out here. So we brainstormed him. It was Clay, it was a bit of Brad. So three of them kind of helped me build that portfolio to get into Eddie
That's
Adams.
great. I mean, lots of students don't get that opportunity. I mean, that's really the key is networking and making those.
Because I met Brad while in my sophomore year of college. So it was just a matter of, keeping in touch with him. And then I met Al my junior year and keep in touch with them two and Clay and, really getting as much information. And I always, like before Brad left SI, I would go to his office like at least, I think, went like 4 to 5 times a year and just showed him my work. Like, here, this is what I'm working on. And I want to get your input. And he always helped and came together. I enlisted their help again to get in the Eddie Adams program, and everything kind of worked out, and I got in.
And so here's what we ended up doing for our workshop. We ended up shooting sports. We ended up shooting a sporting event, and I've got a couple pictures. This is some of the team. We all went and covered a local high school's football team.
Right.
And we gave big guns for you guys to use. Big camera gear. Here's you shooting the game, and your machine gunning skills came into play, right?
Oh yeah.
Because Al Bello ended up saying, get on your stomach, get low.
Yeah.
This is what that workshop's all about, learning from these fellows.
Right.
There's you and Al working hard.
Yeah.
But Al Bello is just an amazing guy, isn't he?
Amazing guy. He's been helping me. He's been one of the he's been a key guy in not just like my career, but like even before I started picking up this momentum, I always was a fan of his work. So being able to work with him and pick his brain and find out like what makes his photographs work the way they do, that was, I couldn't have asked for a better experience.
That's what the workshops are all about, like meeting amazing people in the industry, and making those connections, because you never know. I mean, and just like Brad to me was, when I met Brad, actually, he was a editor at the New York Times, and I was an intern, right? Wow. And so he actually gave me my first assignment, and that was the Belmont Stakes race, whatever, and that was my first time I was in New York, and he just happened to be my first editor. Right. And after years, the thing you'll find also is that editors end up leaving their jobs and going different places. So, years later, he found that he ended up being this, the director of photography at Sports Illustrated. Right. And all of a sudden, it's like I remember when I first came to New York, talking to editors at Sports Illustrated and going up the very first time, and the difference then calling the director of photography, say, hey, I'm gonna grab something at the food truck. What do you want? And just being sort of a thing. So you never know where they're going to end up.
Yeah, even Brad gave me my first assignment. It was a small one. We wound up finding this guy from Humans in New York who was a football player in high school, and I guess this was a test drive for me. He was like, hey, I want you to go to the Bronx and shoot this guy. I was like, oh, all right, cool. That works. And wound up going all the way, I think we somewhere close to Gun Hill Road, and found him, shot him at his construction site, and got the photo. Like, it was my first time, sending stuff through Photo Mechanic and all this craziness. I'm like, oh shit! And he's like, wow, you gave me a really good portrait. And that took that little bit of that small assignment he gave me. I took that and I just started running with it, along with the stuff I was getting from Clay and Al. And I was just like, look, I'm just gonna take off. I'm gonna just lose sleep over this because I like doing this. I like where I'm heading, and we're just gonna see.
That's great.
How much mischief we can get into.
Yeah, that's great. So also one of the things we did a lot of portraiture at Eddie Adams.
Right.
And we did that. We ended up taking like cheerleaders and football players, those same cheerleaders and football players from the game the day before,
right,
out in the woods, and we used pro photo gear to sort of light them up.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, did you do lighting before?
Yes, I did.
You did, so you were familiar with it.
Right, because Clay taught me.
Oh, right, Clay.
Yeah,
yes.
So as soon as I saw the pro photo lights, I was like, oh, all right, I'm right in the ballpark.
You're right in the ballpark, right.
Right.
I'm going to try to pull some of those pictures out in the woods up. That was actually a really fun day.
Yeah.
So we ended up meeting the football coach out in the woods and got the cheerleaders, and Cliff Hausner from Pro Photo was helping us out, and that's Brad Smith. We were talking about Brad Smith before. At that point, he was with Sports Illustrated. Now he's doing his own thing, freelancing.
Right.
And we had each one of the 10 students of this workshop do their own portraits, and we basically some of these are my photos, so they're not actually the lit portraits that you guys are shooting.
Right.
But the interaction with Al Bello here, and that's Michael. Al Bello is your human light stand.
Right.
I mean, someone that is one of the best photographers in the industry, sports photographers, is your human light stand, as you can see here.
Right.
And then after you guys shoot, you've got these two guys looking over your shoulder, critiquing and helping you with it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, even with Clay
made it like the dynamic in the classroom with Clay was to always be at your best in whatever you did. So from breaking down lights to setting up the studio to actually making the picture, the demand to be the apps, like work hard and make good pictures and make meaningful pictures that not just mean something for the sake of the class, but he's like wanted something to go home with, to possibly show people or editors or whatever the case may be. So with that dynamic, I was sort of prepped for Eddie Adams, and having like Al and Brad look over my shoulder and critique the photographs. It was a bit of a grooming for that, because again, just like Clay, Al and Brad, always demand the best and always want you to get better. So that whole feeling, that whole idea, I was groomed for it, without me realizing it until the end of the Eddie Adams program.
And that's the thing, is when you're doing it, you don't realize it's what is it. Well, hindsight's 20/20. Life doesn't make sense until you're looking back on it, right? So all these things, it's very true. And so I know that this is jumping pretty far ahead, but recently, I mean, you've really been like getting a lot of really cool gigs lately.
Yeah,
which
is
I'm
weird.
jealous. I'm jealous, to be honest.
Yeah.
But so recently, you covered the both or just the RNC or DNC?
Just the DNC. So they had somebody else.
Okay, so Instagram.
Yeah.
Called you up and wanted you to do a portrait series.
And I'll tell you about
behind
that.
the scenes.
So
I'm just going to go through these as you talk about them.
Yeah, so the guy I met, Taro Koyama, it's funny because he found me through Facebook through one of the MMA fighters I was shooting, Angela Hill, girl with the mohawk hair. He found one of the pictures. And we started talking on Facebook, and I was like, yeah, I'm living in Brooklyn. Started giving my background, and we just vibed perfectly. So, and then we had the embed project, the military embed project for Fleet Week, and then this came about. And I was like, oh, shit. Holy crap. He's really giving me this big assignment. And thankfully, Clay, Al, Brad, especially with lighting, prepped me for, like, this is by far, I think, like, my biggest, like, assignment.
Yeah.
Because I'm dealing with all these politicians and influencers, and with this with this big election happening, I think this is like one of the most polarizing elections, and being able to shoot these personalities, I was like, oh.
You never know. I mean, also, it's an interesting world now. I mean, shooting for Instagram, being hired for Instagram. You were working with an art director, right? Or
yeah,
sort of. I mean, I don't know their whole deal.
Yeah, it was a mix of different people, because also the Democratic National Convention had their own people, like, because what wound up happening is while we were shooting these photographs, they would go on their Instagram and stuff. So it was
right, and that's huge too because they've got the biggest following out there. I mean, they can just really pump it and and put it on their blogs and so on.
And I was like, they trust a kid from Brooklyn to be shooting this.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's almost like social media these days is more powerful. Because it gets in the pocket right away of all of these people, especially the younger generations, but even the older generations. A lot of people, I get a lot of I don't only get my news from social media, but I certainly see many, many stories that people are sharing, what's trending, and so on.
Yeah. Like, I don't even have to turn on my TV. I just go on my Twitter and find out what's going on in music and sports and what's happening in the news, and it's got to take advantage of that.
Yeah, you have to embrace it. Is the deal, and a lot of people, have a problem with embracing that. They think that it's, I don't know. It's people didn't want to go digital when, you know what I mean?
Like even today, you still like a lot of the peers I go to college with, they're still opposed to the whole digital thing, and in my head, I'm just like, man, you just got to use the tools that's around you, Like, I'm pretty sure, you still want to be reminiscent of the analog, which is cool, but it's like, you gotta embrace, you gotta find a balance. You just use the tools, because it's not about whether you make a great picture with analog or digital. It's just like, for me, it's like what fits you, what fits, like what kind of tool fits what you do. So I'm like, especially with social media, I'm like, look, I'm gonna use it. Telling all these stories.
So we should throw up your social media, by the way, so folks can see what. Ooh, that's my social media. Sorry. So, Anthony B. Geathers. Gosh, I've been calling you Gathers this whole time.
Nah, it's fine because it's like
I'm trying to fix it. Okay, and I screwed up worse. Okay, so anyway, your Instagram account. How often do you post to it? And look at this. So I'm curious, how many more followers did you gain since you're doing these Instagram gigs?
So it was like,
because you have far more than me.
Yeah, which is weird. I'm like, so after the Eddie Adams program, this is when the surge started happening. They put me on the Instagram emerging talent list.
Right. Yes, I remember that.
Right. Because I was like, just one morning, my Instagram just started going off. I'm like, what the hell's going on? I didn't post nothing. And then I looked on the page where it has like little videos and categories.
Yep.
And I see my
search
name.
page. Yeah.
Right. And I'm like,
Oh yeah.
I was like, let me take advantage of that. All right, well, because at first I was just putting like one-liners with photos, and I was like, all right, let me start telling stories. Let me start bringing people into my world. And then with the Embed project, got more and more and more. And then
tell me a little bit about the Embed project.
Okay, so if you scroll down to keep going. All right, so right around that ballpark.
Okay.
So it was myself and 3 other photojournalists, along with Teru from Instagram. And we spent, I want to say, 3 days on the USS Bataan. And we was photographing everything on the ship, but I focused on photographing the Marines. Because,
your background.
And the Marines on the ship were mainly infantry. So I was like, let me take this and let me see what I can do with it. It's different from sports, but let's see what I can do with it. And 3 days on the ship, hung out with the Marines, and it's funny because I've ran into a childhood friend when I was on the ship.
Really?
I was like, what the hell are you doing on the ship? He's like, what the hell are you doing on the ship? And we just took off from there. So the second day we was on there, the officers were like, hey, you got anybody you want to follow? I was like, yes. I got my friend from high school. Let me follow him.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool.
He's like, what's his name? I was like, Sergeant Solomon. And they went and found him. He's like, all right, go his. And I just followed him and the infantry company he was with, and was photographing them playing spades, shit talking, whatever.
Yeah.
Ate chow with them and everything. I just hung out with them.
And said they were, it was Fleet Week, so they were coming into the city.
Right, yeah. This was during Fleet Week. I got up on the bridge. We just...
How was that for a Marine boy to be like, have this sort of all access treatment?
Yeah.
That's abnormal, right?
Yeah,
like you don't
abnormal.
get to do that stuff as a enlisted.
No. It's like the officers are on one end and enlisted is on the other end, and they don't talk unless it's about business.
Right.
But now being a civilian and having access to both without the bridge was refreshing, because I'm like, okay, now I get to interact with both, and I don't have to address anybody sir or man, but be respectful. But
right, because you went on as a civilian, right? Are you always like once you're
once you're a Marine, you're always a Marine. But we went as a civilian, and I was like, let me see what I can do. This is like a first for me. It's like never been embedded before, and I was like, and before, like when I got the assignment, I was like, all right, let me do some homework. Let me go find out and look like how people approach projects like this and see how they shot it or whatever. And along with the sports stuff and the guidance gotten from Al and Brad and you, and about shooting and being and going low or high, all that came into play for this embed project. And and yeah, people caught wind of it, and even my friends were like, "Oh shit, you actually doing this?" I'm like, "Yeah," and but the only ass pain was we couldn't post from the boat. We was in the middle of the ocean.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so like we had to put stuff on CDs and like write and
CDs.
Yeah, CDs. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I haven't heard about those in a while.
Hey, I still got those at the house. So,
really?
Yeah, I still got those at the house. So, but yeah, the embed project that was the first for me. So after that, I was just like, man, all right. Aside from the sports, if anything weird or out of my box, I need to go take those assignments too, because you never know when it might help you or you might gain something from it. And with those projects, aside from everything else, it's like I've been growing.
So where's your heart? I mean, I know that when I went, I've always been a general photographer. I came up shooting sports. I was big into sport, not the same kind of stuff that you were, but I was shooting the more mainstream sports, for the papers and stuff. And I kind of got burnt out on it, and then I got more into documentary and travels, where my heart is. Travel photography, documentary photography, going around with one camera, one lens, and just doing my thing.
Right.
You are doing a lot of sports, not so mainstream sports. You're also doing a lot of wonderful portraiture with some wonderful, like, look at this photo. This is beautiful, with really great lighting.
Right.
Where's your heart? Is it in both? Do you have something else? What's up?
It's in both. Also, because I like doing different things. So aside from shooting MMA, aside from shooting boxing, I shot pro wrestling or something.
Yeah.
And that wasn't just like, because I see a lot of photojournalists shoot that. But me growing up as a pro wrestling fan, through and through, I was like, yo, we've got to shoot this. So right now the goal is
four boys at the house.
Right. We body-slam each other through the beds, putting each other through the sheetrock and everything. So shooting pro wrestling. So now, aside from doing everything else, the goal is to get to the point where we're shooting WWE events.
Yeah.
So that's the
WWE fans,
like events.
Oh, events. Oh,
right,
events,
like the big events, like WrestleMania. And, the big four events. My other heart is in music, especially hip hop. That's the next.
So that's the next thing.
That's the next thing.
Now, the music industry is a tough one because, it depends. I mean, if you can do what you've done in the sports industry, because what you've done is you've kind of like connected with these athletes kind of like as they're getting into their game, right? And then you just sort of follow them for the ride, and they know you, they're familiar with you, and so on. And maybe that's something that you'll do in the music industry. Take that same approach, or are you going to try to like go hit up the main, the big guys right now? Because I've found in the music industry the hard thing is dealing with managements, and it's really like a different world.
It's same with sports, especially with a lot of the fighters. You gotta. That's where I benefited, because instead of dealing with their managers, I just cut the middleman out. I was like, let me go to where the source is. And with the fighters, it's not just like me taking their pictures, like hanging out with them, getting to know them, like being there. Like we go up. This guy, his name's David Branch. He's the World Series of Fighting MMA light heavy and middleweight champion. I've been shooting him for 2 to 3 years, and at first it was just like, let me just shoot him, because in the course of that, I was shooting 2 other guys. They all stuck together and everything. One was a number 1 contender. The other one was a light heavyweight champion. And the approach I took was not just a guy with a camera. I would hang out with them it was to the point with one of the fighters, I was in the sauna cutting weight with them, eating with them, with him.
It's like you're embedded with them.
Yeah, like literally. Like yesterday, I did another workout with him, heavy workout.
Well, you're not a small guy. I mean, you got some guns.
Yeah, I'm like, if I'm gonna shoot the stuff, I gotta look the part.
Is this him also?
Yeah.
Okay, so
that was from the last camp and everything. So yeah, like I get involved, not just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna just shoot you and then I go about my business. I'm like, no, because that's where I've built my best work, and that's where like I find out about guys. So when I do this Instagram post or when people ask me, I could just go and be like, all right, I can tell you exactly what happened on this day, what he did, how he said it. Like, just being there with them, they appreciate that. Aside from the photography, because a lot of MMA guys, they don't get that kind of, they don't get.
It's totally not mainstream.
Right. Even with boxers, like when you hang out with them, you can relate to them. It helps. It helps a lot. So,
right.
And especially coming from the same kind of background where we've struggled, eating mayonnaise sandwiches and going through welfare and everything, and have gotten in trouble with the law and everything. Yeah. So all those experiences for me, and working with guys that's similar that I can like talk to, and I can leave the college degree at home and leave and I can just be like down to earth. It helps. It definitely helps, and it's helped me to create work, and not just build work, but build friendships and build lifelong connections. Like, it's to the point I don't even get on the phone with them, talk about photos. We're talking about life. We're talking about many different things that's going on in society.
I mean, you're a documentary photographer. That's what it's all about.
Right.
Is really creating that rapport with somebody.
Right.
In my opinion, it's the number one key element.
Right. Even when I'm doing commercial stuff, like stuff I've done for, like, let's say Adidas Combat Sports.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I've done stuff with them. Instead of being like the photographer, like, I'm just shooting. I'm like, hey, how you doing? What's going on? Like, for example, I shot former UFC welterweight champion Robbie Lawler, and the first assignment when I shot for Adidas the first time, instead of just being like the photographer there, I was like, hey, how you doing? Got to meet his son, his wife. Got to he noticed I was working out. Even I shot him 2 weeks ago. He's like, hey, you still lifting? Yeah. So like everywhere I go, whether I'm doing commercial stuff or I'm doing my own stuff, I'm always making it my business to talk to people. Even with Deontay Wilder. When I got the assignment from Athletes Quarterly magazine, and I was shooting him. This was during the winter. I was the only person there without a jacket because I hate wearing jackets during the winter. And his whole team, him, was looking at me like I was crazy. I'm like, they're like, yo, it's cold up here. I'm like, I'm not cold up here. And he's like, yo, screw Deontay. We need to be betting on you. You need to get in that ring and fight. So, and just like doing little simple things like that, breaking the tension. And word got around to his whole team and camp and the women around them. They were like, so I heard you don't wear any jackets. I was like, yeah, who told you? It's like, oh, yeah, they told me you wasn't wearing a jacket because I got to follow Deontay from that whole fight week. So press conferences and weigh-ins and everything. And just being that crazy guy in the room with the camera.
That's great.
Definitely helps.
That's great. So, I mean, and so maybe I want to transition a little bit now into what you mentioned, your client work. So how do you as a student, and I think this goes for everybody, you're paying for college, or, someone is at least paying for college.
Yeah, government's
paying for college. Wonderful.
Right.
But, you get out into the real world with this skill set.
Right.
And you've done some great things promotionally through Instagram. Right. They've hired you. Adidas has hired you. How did you get these clients? What clients do you work for? And are you making it financially now as a photographer full time?
I'm on the financial side. I'm still hooking and jabbing out there. So it's like, you guys still go out there and grind. But and it's funny because I started getting assignment work my sophomore year. So right after Clay, and learning studio lighting from him, and I was still like getting my work out there rapidly as often as possible. And when I was shooting a kickboxer, his name's Wayne Barrett. It was funny because he wanted Adidas, So I was like, all right, let's do this.
I'll
shoot you training camp. Now I want you to go and buy as much Adidas apparel as possible. You're going to wear it throughout the training camp.
Oh, really?
So we did that, and we got it on his Instagram page when he had it up at the time. And at that same time, Adidas was creating their own combat sports brand.
Wow.
So after we went to L.A., he fought in this 8-man tournament, came back, and Wayne put me through one of the creative director or whoever he dealt with for Adidas. And next thing you know, I'm on the phone with them. They're like, hey, we saw that you're shooting all these pictures of Wayne Barrett. How would you like to shoot our first campaign with us? Mind you, this was still while I was in school in SVA. And I had
go, well, let me check my schedule.
Yeah. No, I called out of class. I was like, hey, look, I emailed. I was like, look, I'm out of class today.
Right.
I got this big assignment. I need to take this. And it was like, all right, cool. Go with it. Because you
don't get more experience than actually getting out there and doing it.
Right.
You're gonna learn less by almost going to class. That's
right.
What's gonna happen.
Yeah, that's what wound up happening.
Yeah.
Because I learned more while I was taking these assignments and going out to the field instead of hanging around in college.
So what's interesting is, did you do any internships per se?
No internships.
But you just worked.
I just worked. Like normal day for me when I was in school was I would go to school like for the most part 2-3 classes, and then after those 2 or 3 classes I go shoot my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll go home, do homework, and edit my own stuff. And what was nice about SVA and the classes that I took was that I brought what I was doing on the outside as my work. So I used my work not just as a way for me to get my name out there and to get paid, but also I brought it in SVA so I can sharpen that knife and get better and then take it out. So practically I was taking what I was learning as far as the technical classes and everything, and I was actually applying it, like realistically applying it on the outside.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, I mean, you're a real go-getter, for lack of a better term.
Right.
You're a go-getter. Nice job, Anthony. But I know that there's a lot of, at least in my experience in school, I feel like I was a go-getter as well, working through college and so on. But then, is there the other end of the spectrum? Did you see any other students in your? Were they all go-getters, or were there some where you're like?
Just who I hung around with, and that was not a lot of people because I was too, I'm gonna be honest. After class, I made a beeline for the door. I was like, yo, I gotta go shoot my own thing. So the people I met, they were go-getters. So and I sort of inspired them to and I was telling them they're like, oh, I did this job and I was, I only got credit. I was like, credit? The hell you mean? Nah, go get yours. Don't
get paid. Yeah,
get paid. Get your bread.
Yeah, that's right.
So, but I'm just self-motivated because on top of that, the money I earn helps the family out. So aside from doing what I love, it's look, you got to go out there. You got to go get. You're not 18. You're not 19. When I went to college, I was 23, 24. So it was for me myself, it was look, you got to go help the family out. You got to get going. You don't have time to sit there and enjoy college as 18, 19, because they haven't been in the world, 18, 19-year-olds, they haven't been in the world as much, but I've been out in the world. So it's as soon as I got home from the Marine Corps, it's yo, we got to get the business. Because I'm the guy, I don't like sitting around and waiting for things to happen. I got to go get it. So,
well, you're extremely fortunate to have been able to do what you love to make that bread, know, and that's the dream.
Yeah, and we're still hooking the jab, and I'm still struggling like everybody else, but
I think you're well on your way. You've making some really great connections. You got some really great clients. Your portfolio's continuously growing, and that's the thing. And you're freelance, so I mean that's the thing about a lot of people who are staffers are thinking about coming off of a job to become a freelancer, and they're so worried about making that jump, losing the steady income to do this. The sooner you start going and start building, it compounds. Just as you found from one person, from one job to another, and they grow.
Right.
And the connection with Adidas now, that who knows, you might do their next whatever campaign.
Right. I used SVA as a platform to do all that. Instead of just using it as the school, I was like, let me use what the school's offering as far as like equipment and technology and everything. Let me go and make my work, because I wasn't making work for any of the instructors. I was making work for me because I knew what I wanted. I was just like, let me just use what's around me. Let me benefit off of the guidance, and let me go just start doing my own thing. And I was just like that from like the time I got in the SVA to the time I left. And
you taking advantage of the opportunities in front of you. Right. And when you're going to a big school like that and you have access to their labs and this and that, and that's a big deal.
That's a big deal.
And so some people may not take advantage of that as much, but you sure did.
Right, because it's like going to college to learn how to do what I do for a living. Why not do that now?
Right.
Instead of just learning all this and then not applying it to what you want to do. I'm like, do it while you're learning, because you're going to keep learning. And on top of that, you gotta build, because in my head I was like, I'd be damned if I get to my senior year and not just start to build a portfolio. That's just like, that would not have ended well if I'd have done that. So it was like, just build. And even like with Clay, he was like, hey, you got to build. And just meeting different people, like the work allowed me to meet different photographers, and they're just like, hey, keep building, keep working,
keep building,
don't stop, learn as much as possible, work as much as possible, and just keep going.
That's awesome. Well, I we've been talking for a little while now. I know there's some projects that we didn't go through, but what do you feel is like? Is there anything that's like big upcoming next for you that we want to talk about?
I don't even know. I don't even know what's next. I just throw it out there and I just keep working. Right now, I'm shooting. I'm in another training camp. I'm helping a guy. Aside from shooting what I love, like, which is his training camp and everything.
What kind of training camp? Like,
it's MMA training camp. He's fighting in October. Aside from that, I was helping him build his gym out and everything. So balancing two things.
Oh, right. You're actually helping him build the gym. That's what you're talking about too. So
that's why my sneakers got paint and everything on it.
Oh, okay. Well, don't worry. No one can see that we're not wearing like nice stuff below the table. So.
And then on side of that, just been doing some stuff with the hundreds a little bit. Like I gave them some portraits from what I did at the DNC, especially with the seven mothers whose sons and daughters, their murders were on TV.
Let's see if we can get to those real quick. I don't know if you have them up here. Here we are. Is it this one right here?
Yeah, go to that box right there. So, that I gave that to the hundreds aside from giving it to Instagram. Yeah, that by far for me was the most important shoot, because one, we like actually witnessed their sons and daughters being murdered
on television,
on social media. So for me to represent this generation, for young photographers, and to be able to, and for me to be tasked with making portraits, meaningful portraits of these seven mothers, that hit home for me, especially when they walked in the room. We was having fun, shooting all the politicians, but when they walked in the room, it was, I've never felt that anxiety before. That anxiety that even when I was shooting them, we only had 5 minutes with them, but even behind the camera, I was tearing up a bit, because it's like, as a black man, being able to face the seven of them, be able to shoot them, it made me almost want to apologize for what has happened to their sons and daughters. And I took that shoot as like I'm like, whatever you did in the past is in the past. Whatever you're doing now, that is the most important shoot. You have got to nail it. You have got to, because that's going to be in history for a long time. We're going to be like, when my generation's old, we're going to be talking about them and what we saw on TV. So that was more important for me than, like, I hate to say this, but that was more important for me than shooting like Jesse Jackson and all these other politicians, because it's like, I'm in that generation where we're witnessing a lot more stupid things happening on social media, like, cops, treating black men like they're crap and everything. So that particular shoot during that 4-day assignment, that was like,
right.
But when I left the studio, I was like, yeah, I felt good about that.
Yeah.
And it stayed in my mind for the remainder of the 4 days. Like
as long as you got that done, we're set.
And it's weird. It's like a sports guy shooting those kind of portraits.
Shooting politics and these, really intense,
Yeah,
but I think that's what's great about what people have done. The people or editors and art directors have decided to task you with these projects as a sports, because you're coming at it from a different visual style.
Right.
You're used to shooting something else, and I think that's neat. That's great. Changing it up.
Yeah. And now it's like, nowadays, like, aside from shooting sports, let's change it up. Let's go and do more things. Try to get more mischief and try to do things different. So
right.
When I got the stringer contract from Getty, 2 weeks ago they sent me to shoot Skateboard.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, okay. It's on.
Do we have that?
Yeah, it's on the Instagram.
Oh, it's on Instagram. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Get back over there. All right. Where was it? Down or up?
Actually, it's right around here. So it's those 3 pictures.
Okay.
So, and what's funny about that is I grew up with skateboard. When I was in foster care, I for some reason I found skateboard because I was playing all the skateboard and video games. I was like, let me go and find more about the sport, and had my own skateboard, trying to jump over fire hydrants and rails and wind up damaging certain body parts or whatever. But from knowing and getting to know the sport as a kid, when they sent me out to do this, and people usually know me by the violent sport work, but shooting this, it was a different challenge, and I'm like, all right, let me go back to my childhood, and let me go do the homework. And even on Facebook, I was like, hey, who are some photographers as far as skateboarding that I should look at? And I spent like 24 hours just before the assignment. I was just looking through all these photographers. Like, I didn't sleep until like 4 a.m. And I got up at 6 and went and did the shoot. And
I remember those days.
Yeah.
Looking up all the stuff. How am I going to do this? One of the best things I found, and it seems that you do the same sort of thing because you have the backgrounds. It's a lot of these different people you shoot, but I would do a lot of like celebrity stuff, shooting for the Times or something, and I look them up and try to figure out some sort of thing about their past that relates to me, and then I could bring it up, and it would be an icebreaker, and so on.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what helps me out with putting stuff on Instagram, because instead of doing like one-liners, I always try to put a paragraph on like what I shoot, how it relates to me, or how I see it relate to society. So if let's say I shot Ice Cube during the Afro Punk just for my own thing, and in my captions I'm writing, hey, look, I grew up with his music. He wasn't just the fact that he wasn't just a rapper. He was his music was not just relating to what people deem as like violence or whatever, but it's like like I grew up, like these classics influenced me or whatever, and to see Ice Cube in person, be able to photograph him live for the first time, it was like, oh, yeah, all right. Let me try to make the most of it. So,
right. You're living it now. Isn't it crazy being able to see these, different things, people that you've grown up with, like you said, or just these celebrities you've seen, and you're just like, they're just normal people. They're just like one of us, and now we're interacting and crossing paths.
Like when I shot Deontay Wilder, because he's the WBC World Heavyweight Champion in boxing, and I'm in boxing before, the heavyweight champion was the biggest guy in sports, period.
Yeah.
Coming from Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, the heavyweight champion was the biggest man in sports, even in pro wrestling. So to be able to interact with Deontay Wilder and to find out that he's a regular human being, he's a down-to-earth guy. We look on TV like, oh, they're larger than life figures, and then you hang around and we're like, oh, this guy, he's just a regular guy. He's just like, he's cool. It's just like the media puts them in like a certain light.
Right.
But when I'm around them and I put them in my light, they become the everyday man. They become the everyday woman. They become that person you can relate to. So, and that's what I like kind of doing. Instead of like, we give them the hero shot and and the kind of lighting and stuff I use, we make them larger than life figures. But Instagram has been helpful in me expressing that, hey, they're just regular guys. They're just like me and you. Mm-hmm. They just do things a little bit different. Mm-hmm. They just act in society a little bit different.
Right.
But they're still the same person. So taking that into account, that's actually been helping me in being able to be in a room full of elephants and being the guy that's like, oh, hey, how you doing? Yeah, you saw that game or that fight last night? Or like even with him, like with David Branch, with this guy, we just talk about different things. Like before it was just like, oh yeah, hey, yeah, I'm this photographer, yeah, and I was quiet, and then they started getting to know me. It's like, oh, all right, yeah. So like the conversation of fighting, and then now we're talking about everything that's going on in society today, and even his experiences growing up, and just being able to talk about that. I've been able to like break the ice. Mm-hmm. So now you could put me in any room with anybody, and I'm just like, hey, yeah. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, what's up? You saw the game last night?
The more, and the more shoots you do, the more comfortable you are, and,
right.
and you kind of have those easy anecdotes, those easy go-to kind of like quips, I guess you could say.
Yeah, because before it was like when I first started shooting sports, I was like, yo, he's a larger-than-life character, so I gotta treat him as such, and it was like, man, it was like, bring him down to your level.
Yeah.
Talk to them. Go.
And just pretend you're at their level,
right?
And they respect that too. Like if you go in with confidence,
right?
You know how like lions can smell fear or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, if you just go in confident in who you are, that you're the top of your game, right? I think that they see that and they think, oh, another professional in the room.
Yeah, because when I started shooting, like I wasn't faking the funk, but at the same time I was like, yo, I've done this before. Like I'll go to these fights like, look, let me do this and that for you, and they would just look at me like, yo, this guy, for a guy that came out of nowhere and just like wanted to talk to us fighters and stuff and not put us in a bad light. Mm-hmm. They appreciated that, and they just took what I did, and it was like, yo, how can we make it better? Even, and just to the point, I get them involved in the creative process, because if in whatever shoot, whether it be if I'm just shadowing them or doing portrait shoots, I'm like, hey, you like that look right there? I get them involved. Mm-hmm. They're like, yeah, let's tweak this and that, and so they become a part of the work, just like how Malcolm X was with Gordon Parks. Malcolm X knew what he wanted, how he wanted to be portrayed when he was photographed. So when Gordon Parks shot him, he would often talk with him and be like, hey, this is how I would like to be photographed.
Right.
So I sort of do the same, except that I bring my creative process more so into it and see if they like it, if they don't like it, and if they don't, I tweak it. I like, all right, yeah, you like this instead or that instead, or what I'm doing here, and they get involved, and I've been, aside from they helping me out, I'm helping them out, because now we live in an age where you got social media,
right?
And if you as an athlete are not using social media, there's something wrong. Because you can do lots of things.
Everyone has needs for photos for social.
Yeah, whether it be for endorsements or just like we're trying to get a message out, whatever that message is. The fact that I can make photos and have these fighters have access to their own stuff aside from like compensating me for it, and we're able to create lifelong connections, and it's wonderful. Like all the fighters and athletes that I've shot on here, at least 90% of what I shoot on here and in my portfolio, I have a personal connection with, because I stayed with them. Like each fighter, I can tell you I stayed with them for 2 to 3 years.
Wow.
Each one of them. From him, I stayed with him for 3 years. With another fighter, I shot Angela Hill. I stayed with her. I actually shot her from my freshman year all the way to my junior year.
Nice.
And every other fighter that I've shot, it's been that same kind of mentality. I've photographed them from the time I was in college to the time I left, and still having those personal relationships.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, Anthony, I'm really thrilled to hear all of your background and to see how you've sort of been blossoming into this wonderful butterfly. There's a great photographer, right? And I think should be very inspirational to many who are watching, many who are in your shoes or following in your footsteps, whether it be in this industry or a different realm of photography. But it's just get out there, make great relationships, and make the most of your opportunities.
Yeah, you got even if you don't, like I was shooting with damn near nothing, and I was like, look, let me take the skill. I didn't come in any money for any gear until about like senior year, and that's when it's like, all right, I got a little bit of bread, I can go and make moves and go get different things that I need. Yeah. And and every day I'd like work. Like now it's been 4 to 5 days a week. Go shoot, make work. We'll take weekends off, edit, do what we need to do, and it's just like every day, back on it.
Just killing it.
Yeah.
Well, everyone can go to your Instagram, Anthony B. Geathers.
Yep.
Geathers, got it.
You got it.
Had to say feathers, Geathers, right?
Yep.
Anthony B. Geathers on Instagram, and then also your website here is AnthonyGeathersPhoto.com.
Yep.
Can keep up with you, Instagram, and all your social.
And they can even talk to me on Instagram. I'm one of those guys on Instagram. I will hold a conversation.
Oh, awesome! That's great.
With people, whether they want to ask about the work or whatever. Like, it was to the point where. One photo, because I shot another UFC guy, Conor McGregor, and I remember having this conversation with this coach that lasted like I think 20 or 30 lines. So
wow.
If people want to go on there and
you're reachable is what it comes down to. So check him out online. Everybody, please subscribe to Photo Brigade Facebook. We do all sorts of all our social streams from Snapchat, Instagram, all that kind of good stuff. We hand off, and I got to hand off the Instagram to you at some point. Behind the scenes, it's something I don't know what.
We'll make something happen.
We'll make something happen. photobrigade.com/live. Thanks again to Adorama, Canon Professional Services, Temba Bags. Thank you, Anthony, first and foremost for your service and just for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Everyone, we'll see you again next time. Take care. Cheers.